We begin with breaking news. Winnipeg police say an accused killer already in custody was responsible for 3 additional deaths. That's the murders of 4 First Nations women occurred within months of one another last spring, and that the investigation remains open. For more on this, I want to bring in the CBC's Sarah Galashan. So Sarah, bring us up to speed on this.
Yeah, Andrew, we're talking about Jeremy Skibicki, 35 years old. He was charged last May with first-degree murder and has been held in custody at the Milner Ridge Correctional Facility since then. And that's where police paid him a visit today. He was already there for the murder of Rebecca Contois, 24 years old. Her remains were discovered back in May in a residential part of her remains, were discovered in a residential dumpster near an apartment building last May. Police now believe that actually Contois was his 4th and final victim. In fact, they say that it was on May 4th that they believe Skibicki killed 26-year-old Marcedes Myran, an Indigenous woman from the Long Plains First Nation who had been previously reported missing. They also say that on May 1st that Skibicki, they say, took the life of 39-year-old Morgan Beatrice Harris, also from Long Plains, and similarly reported missing. Police say that the identity of what they believe was Skibicki's first victim, that her identity is still unknown. They did, though, give great detail about what a piece of clothing that they believe that she was wearing at the time. They describe it and showed pictures of this style of jacket they say she was wearing. They say it was striped, a reversible jacket, that it had a cat-shaped crest on it, that it was made by the label Baby Fat spelled P-H-A-T. They believe as well that she was an Indigenous woman, that she was in her mid-20s, and they say that she was killed, they believe, on March 15th, 2022. And they are urging anyone with any information, no matter how insignificant it might seem, to share it with them so that they can help put a name to this 4th victim. They say they don't believe that there are other victims, that there is no longer any danger to the public. Police say, from what they acknowledged at that press conference, is an accused serial killer who was at large in Winnipeg last spring. I want to play you a bit of what they said at that press conference.
It's always unsettling when there's any kind of a serial killing because it does involve Indigenous women. We're very sensitive to the whole missing and murdered Indigenous women investigation and inquiry and the recommendations that come out of that. This is top of mind for us. It's something that we work with our partners to try to prevent this kind of stuff, doing a lot of outreach work with many of the community support agencies out there so that it doesn't come to this.
And Sarah, what were they willing to say about evidence found?
They were not willing to say much, to be frank, saying that this is a very sensitive matter and that they're going to leave that with the Crown. But what we know about the evidence found when it came to the death of Rebecca Contois was the partial remains were found in a dumpster near an apartment building. That led them to a landfill, and there was an extensive search of that landfill at the time. And at the time that Skibicki was arrested, they did indicate that they believed there could be more victims. What they have said is that they are not dealing with, in terms of these other 3 victims, they are not dealing with bodies, but rather with DNA. And they say that there's been extensive forensic and lab work that has been conducted to that end, that they presented that evidence to the Crown, and that 3 more charges of first-degree murder have been approved by the Crown. So they say enough evidence for 3 additional charges of first-degree murder. They also were asked whether or not they believe Indigenous women, First Nations women, were targeted by Skibicki, and they said they can't say whether or not that was an intended target, but Andrew, it is the fact that all 4 of these women were Indigenous.
All right, Sarah, thank you. CBC's Sarah Galashan.
You bet.
And support is available for anyone affected by the details of this case. You can contact Medicine Bear Counselling, Support and Elder Services. The number is 204-594-6500, extension 102 or 104 within Winnipeg. Or if you're outside Winnipeg, you can call 1-888-953-5264. Support is also available via Manitoba's Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Liaison Unit. The numbers there are 1-800-442-0488 or 204-677-1648.